they need to separate up these guys. Tatum's not going anywhere. I think they got to get rid of Brown.
And
they seem to be getting along right now after Brown got his triple double the other night. They say, I think we could play together. What do you mean you think we could play together? It's either you can or you can't. So if you don't have a clear idea of whether you could coexist on the same floor and you two guys are supposed to be the pillar of the Celtics, you need to split them up. And the only answer that's going to save Boston at this point is Bradley Beal. And I've said that all along. Brown needs to be traded to Washington immediately, and they need to get Bradley Beal in the equation. If that deal doesn't happen, then they should really be looking to Dallas and trying to get Jalen Brunson, because they desperately need somebody who could distribute the ball.
Yeah, I mean, I would love Bradley Beal. I mean, when I look at the trade, though, between the two of them, he has the player option next year, which is no guarantee he gets picked up. And then
it would have to be a sign and trade. It can't just be
I mean, I completely agree with you when it comes to them being unable to play together. I mean, when you see the two of them, they're arguably the best young duo in the NBA, and they're one game above 500. They're getting beat by teams they should beat on a consistent basis, and you watch them play, and there's not much rhythm offensively. They struggle late in games to determine who's going to be the finisher, and there's not always times where the Celtics have the best pieces to complement them. But I mentioned earlier in the show, I don't believe Marcus Smart is the starting point guard. I think he's either a versatile six man or a starting two guard. The offense really doesn't run well through him. Whenever the Celtics ask him to be something he's not, he struggles. He turns the ball over too much or takes too many 3-point shots. And you can tell there's tension whenever those moments happen and there's no rhythm. And we have seen it before. Now, I would love Bradley Beal. I think another guy that I would love to see get moved, even though I'm not fully sold that he wants to get moved, is someone like Damian Lillard. I think that Jaylen Brown for swap would be amazing. Because again, it's someone who can run this offense and be someone who can coexist alongside Jayson Tatum. So, those two are amazing. They are two very good friends, but at the end of the day, I see very little rhythm and very little potential is getting switched. That is true, but
I mean, Lillard's
got to get someone.
Lillard's stomach is he's had that abdominal strain for about 4 years, it seems like. So I mean, they can't go in that direction. They need to stay relatively young, and they got to split these two guys up. It's just not, and Marcus Smart is not a traditional point guard. No. And I'm sure he would even admit he's more of a defensive guy. He brings attitude. He brings toughness. He can shoot the three pretty well on occasion. He's not a ball handler. And if you went into the season thinking that Marcus Smart was going to be one of your distributors, then there's a big problem right there. So Udoka, when he came in, a big thing that probably the biggest thing on his radar should have been to get. Why are you shaking your head?
Because you said Udoka, it's Udoka.
Yeah, who cares? So when he came in, the I can't pronounce that shit. So the biggest thing was
it's 5 letters. It was five.
The biggest thing that he had to do was get these two guys to get on the same page, and that hasn't happened at all. So that's a failure.
I feel like I'm seeing a lot of the same problems from last year that haven't really gotten fixed, because one of the biggest issues I had under what was going on with Brad Stevens is this team had no transition game, which was almost their identity when Brad Stevens first came up with the Celtics, and he had guys like, Smart and Bradley and Crowder and Horford and all these good defensive players. They had a transition game. They had a defense. They had an identity. They made some trades, lost those players, drafted more from the offensive angle, and they completely disappeared. They had no transition game. Their ball movement was terrible, and it led to a coaching change. I look at the Celtics now, and I see a lot of those problems kind of remaining the same. I was hoping a new voice would make a difference with the two young stars, but I see a lot of the same problems I saw from last season, and clearly it's not working. Now, I do agree with you. The Celtics have to make a move. I think when you look at the NBA today, when you have young stars or you have stars in general and you're not winning and you're constantly playing wild card games and setting yourself up to play the Nets or the bucks every single year in the first round. There's no guarantee those star players remain on those teams. So the Celtics have to do something because they can't consistently keep setting Jayson Tatum up for first-round playoff exits because that doesn't tell me that he's going to be here long-term, and they got to make sure they find those players. But, I haven't loved what Udoka. Oh, God, now I'm going to say it wrong. Udoka. I mean, I haven't been fully impressed. Again, the talent is on this team. They have the 2 young stars. They have, some solid veterans. Again, it's certainly no perfect roster, but it's not a roster that's only one game better than 500. They need to play a lot better as a team. They need to play better coach. They need better coaching, and they got some work to do. It's certainly clear.
I was going to say, we've talked about trade between Sacramento and Philly. We've beaten that to death. What if it was like a Jaylen Brown and Marcus Smart for Fox and Buddy Hield and Marvin Bagley? I mean, Fox could be a guy that could actually lead the offense at least.
Yeah, because you got the playmaker, the shooter, and then the versatility alongside him on the wing. I don't know. You didn't mention Robert Williams' name, so he'd remain at the 5. I don't know if the contracts will work because Al Horford is just kind of weighing them down.
Right.
But it makes sense. I think Brown is personally better than Fox. I think there'd have to be a little bit better with the trade. I think the Celtics would be giving up a lot there. But I feel like when you look at the Kings in general, whether the Celtics keep them, when you look at building a team for, this year or next, when you want to try to see what you can do, there's some not terrible contracts on that team. Like, I would totally look for someone like Harrison Barnes.
True.
I feel like he's someone you could definitely move on in a trade. You don't like him?
I used to love Harrison Barnes, but
they need a versatile wing badly.
He's not a
Tatum
difference
switches
maker.
to the 4. See, I don't know. The Celtics don't have the assets to get a difference maker. That's the problem. Unless Brown is moved, I don't think they move Brown this season.
I think Harrison Barnes is a difference maker if he's the 3rd or 4th option. I don't think he's a difference maker.
That's why they don't need scoring. The Celtics don't need to score. They already have 2 of them.
Right.
They need someone who can play defense and play versatile.
At this point, Harrison Barnes is just as good as Tobias Harris.
Yeah, that's the thing is, when you look at some of the bad teams around basketball and you look at the Celtics assets for this season, Robert Williams has 4 years left after this year. Solid big man, nothing amazing. Smart's contract's much larger than I thought. I think he's under contract till 26.
Mm-hmm.
The Celtics gave him an extension for a little bit longer than I'd like them to, but he's a name that could possibly get moved. I don't like any of the Celtics young guards. So it's tough to really look at what they can add here because it's not like they're blowing anyone away with who they have.